Captain Jai-Ho Park was fixing a broken tank engine when the world changed forever. The sound of sirens filled the air at the military base near Busan. He looked up from his work, his hands covered in grease, and saw people running toward the command center. "Captain Park, they need you right now," shouted a young soldier, running past his workshop. Jai-Ho wiped his hands on an old rag and picked up his toolbox. He always carried it with him, even to meetings. His fellow officers made fun of him for this habit, but Jai-Ho believed that tools were more useful than guns sometimes. The command center was full of high-ranking officers staring at the main screen. On it, Jai-Ho saw something that looked impossible. A massive machine, bigger than any building he had ever seen, was walking across the ocean toward Korea. Its metal legs moved through the water like a giant spider, and its body blocked out the sun. Colonel Yun-Ki Lee, Jai-Ho's commander, pointed at the screen. "The Meridian Empire sent this message 1 hour ago. They call it the World Ender. Our missiles don't work against it. The Americans' weapons can't stop it. Even the Chinese failed to damage it." Jai-Ho moved closer to the screen, his eyes focused on the machine's joints and moving parts. Something about them looked familiar, but he couldn't tell why yet. "Sir," he said, still watching the screen, "have we tried to understand how it works before we try to blow it up?" Colonel Lee turned to him with a frustrated look. "Captain Park, this is not one of your broken tanks. This is an alien war machine that has destroyed 3 fleets already." Jai-Ho opened his toolbox and took out an old wrench. It was his grandfather's, worn smooth by years of use. "Sir, everything that moves can break. Everything that's built can be taken apart. Even alien machines must follow some basic rules." Dr. Hannah Kim, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. She was the base's top scientist, and unlike others, she often supported Jai-Ho's unusual ideas. "He's right, Colonel. We've been trying to destroy it, but maybe we should try to understand it first." The World Ender was now visible from the base's windows. Its shadow fell over the city of Busan, making the day dark as night. People were evacuating. Roads were full of cars, and fear filled the air. But Jai-Ho kept studying the screen, watching how the machine moved. "Look at this," he said, pointing to one of the leg joints. "See how it bends. That's not alien technology. That's a ball joint, just bigger than any we've seen. And these parts here," he traced the movement pattern with his finger. "They're using hydraulics. Very advanced, yes, but still hydraulics." Colonel Lee looked uncertain, but interested. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" Jai-Ho held up his wrench. "Sir, let me study it closer. Every machine needs maintenance. Every joint needs oil. Every moving part can wear down. If we can't break it from the outside," he smiled slightly, "maybe we can take it apart from the inside." Dr. Hannah's eyes lit up. "A mechanical approach instead of a military one. It's so simple it might work." The World Ender took another step, and the ground shook. Its shadow now covered the entire base. The machine was close enough that they could hear its engines, a deep sound that made the windows vibrate. Colonel Lee looked at the wrench in Jai-Ho's hand, then at the massive war machine outside. "Captain Park, this is either the craziest or the most brilliant idea I've heard today." He straightened his uniform. "You have 1 hour to give me a proper plan. Don't make me regret this." Jai-Ho nodded and turned back to the screen, his mind already working on the problem. The World Ender might be unstoppable to armies, but every mechanic knew a secret. The bigger the machine, the more things could go wrong. And Jai-Ho was very good at finding things that could go wrong. Jai-Ho sat in the dimly lit analysis room, surrounded by screens showing different angles of the World Ender. He had been studying the footage for 3 hours straight, making notes in his old paper notebook. Dr. Hannah Kim sat next to him, helping him understand the more complex parts of the alien machine. "Look at this," Jai-Ho said, pointing to a particular section of the footage. "When it moves its left leg, there's a slight delay. The hydraulic system is working harder on that side." Dr. Hanna leaned closer to the screen. You're right. The pressure distribution isn't even. But how can you tell it's hydraulics? It could be their advanced alien technology. Jai-Ho smiled and pulled out an old manual from his bag. It was for a construction crane he had fixed last year. He opened it to a diagram showing how hydraulic systems worked. Alien or not, they still need to move heavy things. Physics doesn't change just because you're from another planet. Colonel Lee walked into the room, looking tired. The world ender had stopped moving and now stood in the ocean. Just 3 kilometers from Busan's shore, its massive shadows still darkened the city. Please tell me you found something useful, Captain. Jai-Ho nodded and played a specific part of the footage again. See these panels on its legs? They're maintenance access points, just like on our tanks and planes. They need to check and repair things too. And look here, Dr. Hanna added, pointing to another screen. The energy readings show regular patterns. It's like a heartbeat. The machine needs to rest and cool down after moving. It's not invincible. It has limits. Colonel Lee rubbed his forehead. That's good to know. But how does this help us? We still can't damage it from the outside. Jai-Ho stood up and walked to a large screen showing the world ender's full body. We don't need to damage it. We just need to get inside. He traced a path with his finger. These maintenance panels are big enough for a person to fit through, and they're placed in a pattern. Whoever built this machine needed easy access to repair it. Are you suggesting we send someone inside that thing? Colonel Lee asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Not someone, Jai-Ho replied. Me. And I know just the person to help me. He pulled out his phone and showed them a picture. This is Dae-Sung Cho. We worked together in the military repair depot. He can crack any system, mechanical or electronic. Dr. Hanna looked concerned. The Meridians will have security systems. Yes, Jai-Ho agreed, but they'll be focused on stopping high-tech attacks. They won't expect someone to just walk in with a wrench. He played another part of the footage, showing how the machine's joints moved. Look at these connections. They're advanced, but they follow the same principles as our machines. Everything that's built needs to be maintained. Everything that's maintained can be taken apart. Colonel Lee studied the footage quietly for a moment. This is crazy, Captain Park. But he pointed at another screen showing failed missile attacks against the world ender. Everything else we've tried has failed. How long would you need? Give me 6 hours with Dae-Sung to study the plans and prepare. Then we'll need Dr. Hanna's help to get close enough without being detected. Dr. Hanna nodded. I can help with that. We've been developing new stealth technology. It's not perfect, but it might work for a short time. Colonel Lee looked out the window at the massive machine that threatened their city. 6 hours, Captain. After that, we'll have no choice but to try a nuclear option. Jai-Ho gathered his notes and tools. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one, sir. The Meridians built their war machine to withstand armies. But every mechanic knows, the more complex something is, the more ways it can break. As they left the analysis room, Dr. Hanna caught up with Jai-Ho. Are you sure about this? It seems impossible. Jai-Ho patted his toolbox. Impossible just means no one has tried the right way yet. Now let's go find Dae-Sung. We have a very big machine to fix, or rather, to unfix. Dae-Sung Cho was exactly where Jai-Ho thought he would be, in his repair shop, fixing an old motorcycle. When Jai-Ho walked in, Dae-Sung didn't even look up from his work. I heard about the giant alien machine, Dae-Sung said, adjusting something with his wrench. I wondered how long it would take you to come find me. Jai-Ho smiled. How do you know I'm not just here to say hello? Dae-Sung finally looked up, his face covered in grease marks. Because you only visit me when you have a crazy plan that might get us killed. Dr. Hanna, who had come with Jai-Ho, stepped forward. We need your help to save Busan. Maybe all of Earth. In the next hour, they showed Dae-Sung all the footage and analysis. He watched quietly occasionally nodding or making notes. Outside the shop window, they could see the world ender's massive shape blocking the evening sun. "So," Dae-sung said when they finished, "you want us to sneak inside an alien war machine, find its weak points, and break it from the inside, while hoping the aliens don't catch us." "That's right," Jae-ho replied. Dae-sung was quiet for a moment. Then he reached under his workbench and pulled out his own toolbox. "When do we start?" They gathered around a table where Dr. Hannah spread out the technical plans they had made. "The maintenance panels are here and here," she pointed. "Our stealth technology can hide you from their sensors for about 30 minutes. After that, you're on your own." Jae-ho opened his toolbox and started selecting specific tools. "We need to work fast. Find the main hydraulic systems first. Even alien machines need a power source." "Look at these readings," Dae-sung said, studying the energy patterns. "They're using some kind of cooling system. All that power generates heat. If we can find the cooling lines, we can cause the whole system to overheat," Jae-ho finished. "But we need to do it slowly, so they don't notice until it's too late." Dr. Hannah showed them a small device. "This will help you track the energy flows inside. It's like a heat detector, but for their type of power source." They spent the next few hours planning each step. Jae-ho and Dae-sung memorized the layout of the machine's legs, marking where they thought important systems would be. They packed their tools carefully, only the most essential ones they would need. "Remember," Dr. Hannah said, "you'll only have 30 minutes of stealth. After that, you need to be far enough inside that their internal sensors won't detect you." Colonel Lee arrived as they were finishing their preparations. "The world ender hasn't moved for hours. This might be our best chance." He looked at Jae-ho and Dae-sung. "Are you sure about this?" Jae-ho checked his tools one last time. "No, sir. But I'm sure about one thing. Every machine can break. We just need to find the right parts to break. The aliens think their technology is too advanced for us to understand," Dae-sung added. "That's their weakness. They won't expect someone to attack them with simple tools." As the sun set behind the world ender, they made their final preparations. Dr. Hannah activated the stealth devices, which hummed quietly. Jae-ho and Dae-sung put on their dark coveralls, designed to blend with the machine's surface. "If we're not back in 3 hours," Jae-ho told Colonel Lee, "use the nuclear option. We'll try to be done before then." Dr. Hannah hugged them both. "Be careful in there." Jae-ho patted his grandfather's wrench, now safely in his pocket. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." "Ready?" he asked Dae-sung. His friend nodded, picking up his toolbox. "Let's go show these aliens that they should have brought a warranty for their unstoppable war machine." The night was dark as Jae-ho and Dae-sung approached the world ender. They moved slowly through the shallow water, keeping close to one of the massive legs. The machine was even bigger up close. Each leg was as wide as a highway, and the metal surface stretched up into the darkness above them. "Stealth devices working," Jae-ho whispered, checking the small screen on his wrist. 28 minutes left. Dae-sung pointed up. "There's the maintenance panel, just like we saw it in the footage." They started climbing using the metal ridges on the leg. Their special gloves, designed by Dr. Hannah, helped them grip the smooth alien metal. The maintenance panel was 30 meters up, but they had trained for this kind of climbing in the military. 24 minutes, Jae-ho said as they reached the panel. Dae-sung pulled out a small device and pressed it against the panel's edge. "Just like I thought," Dae-sung whispered. "They use magnetic locks. Very advanced, but still magnets." He pulled out a tool he had made just for this job. It created a stronger magnetic field that confused the lock. The panel opened with a soft click. Inside, they found exactly what Jae-ho had expected, a maintenance tunnel big enough for people to walk through. The aliens who built this machine needed to fix it too. 20 minutes of stealth left, Jae-ho said as they climbed inside. The tunnel was lit by a soft blue light, pipes and cables ran along the walls, all labeled with alien writing. "Look at these pipes," Dae-sung said, touching one carefully. "They're warm. Must be part of the cooling system." They moved deeper into the machine, following the largest pipes. Ji-ho used Dr. Hannah's energy detector to guide them toward the power source. Every few meters, they stopped to check for alien security systems. 10 minutes, Ji-ho warned. They had reached a large room filled with machinery. The sound of pumping hydraulic fluid was everywhere. "This is it," Dae-sung said, looking at the complex system of pipes and valves. "This controls the leg movements. See how the pipes connect. Just like our construction machines, but bigger." Ji-ho studied the system quickly. 5 minutes until the stealth wears off. "We need to hide." They found a maintenance shaft between two large machines and squeezed inside. Just as their stealth devices powered down, they heard something. Footsteps. 2 Meridian engineers walked past their hiding spot. They were tall, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms each. They carried tools that looked surprisingly similar to human tools. "They're doing maintenance checks," Dae-sung whispered after the aliens left. "That's good news. It means they have to fix things too." Ji-ho pulled out his grandfather's wrench and looked at the hydraulic system again. Now he could see it clearly. The Meridians had built something incredibly advanced, but they still needed basic mechanical systems to make it work. "Look at these joints," he whispered. "They're using standard pressure valves. The design is different, but the principle is the same. Every few hours, they need to check and adjust the pressure." Dae-sung smiled in the blue light. "And if someone were to slowly change those pressure settings, the whole system would start to fail," Ji-ho finished. "But so slowly they might not notice until it's too late." They waited until they were sure no more engineers would come. Then they pulled out their tools and began their work. Ji-ho thought about what his grandfather always said: "The bigger they are, the harder they fall." The world ender continued to stand motionless above Busan, its creators unaware that 2 humans with simple tools had found their way into its heart. And those humans knew exactly how to make it fall. Inside the world ender, Ji-ho and Dae-sung moved carefully through the network of maintenance tunnels. They had been inside the machine for over an hour now, mapping its systems and making interesting discoveries. "This is remarkable," Ji-ho whispered as they examined a large power junction. "Their technology is advanced, but they still use basic mechanical principles. Look at these cooling pipes. They're just like the ones in our power plants, only made from better materials." Dae-sung studied the junction with his handheld scanner. "You're right. They have quantum power sources and advanced metals, but the way they put everything together is surprisingly simple." They found a secure spot behind some machinery to rest and examine their findings. Ji-ho took out his notebook and started drawing diagrams of what they had seen. The blue light from the alien systems cast soft shadows around them. "Do you notice something strange?" Ji-ho asked, showing his notes to Dae-sung. "They don't use any backup systems. No redundancy. It's like they never expected anything to go wrong." Dae-sung nodded slowly. "They trust their advanced materials so much that they never planned for failures. That's why they only have one maintenance access point for each section." Through their communication device, Dr. Hannah's voice came in quietly. "Are you seeing any security systems?" "That's another strange thing," Ji-ho replied. "They have sensors for energy weapons, explosives, and electronic attacks, but nothing for simple mechanical interference. It's like they never thought someone would try to use basic tools against their machine." As they talked, a group of Meridian engineers walked past their hiding spot. The aliens were discussing something in their own language, but their gestures looked familiar. They were talking about maintenance checks, just like human engineers would. "Look at their tools," Dae-sung whispered after the aliens had passed. "They're carrying devices for measuring quantum energy fields, but they're using simple wrenches for the hydraulic systems. Some things are the same everywhere in the universe." Ji-ho checked the energy detector Dr. Hannah had given them. The main power core is 3 levels up, but we don't need to go there. These distribution nodes are the real weakness. He pointed to his drawings. See how everything connects. They built this amazing machine, but they still need to follow the basic rules of physics. Heat needs to be moved away from the power source. Pressure needs to be balanced in the hydraulic systems. Weight needs to be distributed evenly. Dae-sung examined the diagrams carefully. So if we adjust these pressure valves just a little bit, the whole system will slowly begin to fail, Jai-ho finished. Not quickly enough for their sensors to detect it, but enough to cause problems when they try to move. Through their communicator, Colonel Lee's voice came in. 2 hours until we need to consider other options, Captain Park. Have you found a way to stop it? Jai-ho looked at his grandfather's wrench, then at the complex machinery around them. Yes, sir. The Meridians built their war machine to be unstoppable by armies, but they forgot something important. What's that? Colonel Lee asked. They forgot that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. They protected their machine against every advanced weapon we have. But they never thought about protecting it against a mechanic with a wrench. Dae-sung checked his tool bag. We'll need about an hour to make all the necessary adjustments. Then gravity and physics will do the rest of the work for us. Jai-ho put away his notebook and picked up his tools. The Meridians think they're superior because of their advanced technology. But they never learn one of the most important lessons about machines. What lesson is that? Dr. Hannah asked through the communicator. The more complex a machine is, the more things can go wrong, Jai-ho replied. And everything that can be built can be taken apart, even if it was built by aliens. Jai-ho and Dae-sung started their work carefully and methodically. They began with the main hydraulic system that controlled the World Ender's left leg. Ji-ho used his grandfather's wrench to adjust the pressure valves, turning each one just a tiny bit. The key is to make small changes, he whispered to Dae-sung. If we change too much at once, their sensors will detect it. Dae-sung worked on the cooling systems, carefully loosening connections and adjusting flow regulators. It's like making a machine age 10 years in 1 hour, he said quietly. Through their communication device, Dr. Hannah monitored their progress. The energy readings are starting to show small changes, she reported. But they're gradual enough that the Meridians haven't noticed yet. Jai-ho moved to the next section. The massive machine had hundreds of hydraulic systems, all working together to move its enormous weight. He knew they couldn't sabotage all of them, but they didn't need to. They just had to create enough small problems in the right places. Think of it like dominoes, Jai-ho explained as they worked. We just need to push the first few pieces. When they try to move the machine, physics will do the rest. They worked steadily for 40 minutes, moving through the maintenance tunnels with careful precision. Every few minutes, they had to hide from Meridian engineer patrols. The aliens were doing their regular checks, but they weren't looking for the kind of subtle changes Jai-ho and Dae-sung were making. Look at this, Dae-sung called softly. He had found a main power distribution node. They're using quantum energy, but they still need these mechanical switches to control the flow. Just like a water dam needs gates to control the water. Jai-ho examined the switches carefully. Perfect. If we adjust these slightly, the power distribution will become uneven. Not enough to trigger alarms, but enough to cause problems when they need full power. As they worked, they could feel small vibrations through the metal floor. The World Ender was preparing to move again. They had to finish their sabotage before it started walking. How much longer? Colonel Lee asked through the communicator. 20 minutes, Jai-ho replied, working faster but still carefully. We've done the main hydraulic systems and power distribution. Now we just need to affect the cooling system. Dae-sung was already working on the cooling pipes. These carry heat away from the power core, he explained. If they don't work properly, the whole machine will start to overheat, but so slowly that they won't notice until it's too late. They made their final adjustments just as they felt the machine's engines beginning to power up. The vibrations grew stronger, and they could hear the hydraulic systems starting to move. "It's time to get out," Jai-Ho said, packing his tools. "When they try to move, all our small changes will start working together. The pressure will be wrong in the hydraulic systems. The power distribution will be uneven. The cooling systems won't work properly." They started making their way back to the maintenance panel where they had entered. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the World Ender's systems struggling to work together properly. "Remember what I always say about big machines?" Jai-Ho asked as they climbed down. Dae-Sung smiled in the darkness. "The bigger they are, the harder they fall," Jai-Ho finished. "And this is the biggest machine we've ever taken apart." The World Ender started to move. Its massive legs lifted slowly as it prepared to walk toward Busan City. But something was wrong. The left leg moved more slowly than the right. The hydraulic systems made strange noises that echoed through the maintenance tunnels. Jai-Ho and Dae-Sung were halfway to their exit point when all the blue lights turned red. Alarm sounds filled the air. The Meridian engineers had finally noticed that their machine wasn't working properly. "They know something's wrong," Dr. Hannah said through the communicator. "The energy readings are becoming unstable. Whatever you did is working." Jai-Ho and Dae-Sung had to press themselves against a wall as a group of Meridian engineers ran past. The aliens were moving quickly, their 4 arms carrying diagnostic tools and repair equipment. "The main control room is in chaos," Dr. Hannah reported, listening to the Meridian communications. "They can't understand why their systems are failing. They're checking for electronic attacks and weapons damage, but finding nothing." The World Ender tried to take another step. The sound of straining metal filled the air. The machine's weight was no longer properly balanced because of all the small changes Jai-Ho and Dae-Sung had made. "Intruders," a voice shouted in the Meridian language. Through their communicator, Dr. Hannah translated for them. A group of Meridian security officers appeared at the end of the tunnel, pointing strange weapons at them. "Run," Jai-Ho shouted. He and Dae-Sung turned and ran in the opposite direction. They knew the maintenance tunnels well now, after spending hours working in them. The Meridians chased them, but the humans were smaller and faster. "The machine's cooling systems are failing," Dr. Hannah reported. "Power distribution is becoming more unstable. The quantum core is overheating." They could feel the heat through the metal walls now. The World Ender's systems were working harder and harder to compensate for all the small problems they had created. But fixing one problem only made the others worse. The Meridian Supreme Technologist appeared on all communication channels. Dr. Hannah translated his angry words. "Who dares to interfere with our perfect machine? Show yourselves." Jai-Ho grabbed his communicator. "This is Captain Jai-Ho Park of the Korean Military Engineering Corps. Your machine isn't perfect. Nothing built by anyone, human or alien, is perfect. Everything can break. Everything can be taken apart." They'd reached a junction of maintenance tunnels. The World Ender shuddered around them as its systems continued to fail. More Meridian engineers ran past, too busy trying to save their machine to notice the 2 humans hiding in the shadows. "Impossible," the Supreme Technologist shouted. "Our technology is too advanced for primitive humans to understand." "That's your mistake," Jai-Ho replied. "You made everything so advanced that you forgot the basic rules of mechanics. Every machine needs maintenance. Every system can fail. The bigger the machine, the more things can go wrong." The World Ender tried to move again. This time, the uneven pressure in its hydraulic systems caused one leg to move too quickly while the other moved too slowly. The massive machine began to tilt dangerously. "All personnel evacuate immediately," the Supreme Technologist ordered. Emergency power shutdown initiated. "Too late," Dae-Sung said quietly. "Once a machine this big starts to fall, nothing can stop it." Jai-Ho and Dae-Sung finally reached their exit point. As they opened the maintenance panel, they could see Busan in the distance, still safe. Behind them, the World Ender's mighty systems, sabotaged by nothing more than simple tools and basic mechanical knowledge, were failing one by one. The World Ender fell slowly, Jeho and Dae-sung watched from the safety of the beach as the massive machine lost its balance. All their small changes to its systems had worked together to create one big problem that even advanced alien technology couldn't solve. "Look at that," Dae-sung said quietly. "All those advanced systems, and in the end, it was simple physics that brought it down." The machine tried one last time to correct its balance, but the hydraulic systems were working against each other now. The power wasn't flowing properly to the legs. The cooling systems couldn't handle the strain. With a sound like thunder, the world ender began to fall into the ocean. Dr. Hannah ran to meet them on the beach. "The Meridian fleet is retreating," she said, showing them her tablet. "They can't believe their ultimate weapon was defeated by two mechanics with basic tools." Colonel Lee arrived with a team of soldiers. They all watched as the mighty war machine crashed into the water. Waves rushed toward the shore, but the city's flood barriers protected them. The world ender lay half submerged in the ocean, its systems shutting down one by one. "How did you do it?" Colonel Lee asked. "All our advanced weapons couldn't even scratch it." Jeho held up his grandfather's old wrench. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one, sir." The Meridians built their machine to resist attacks from advanced weapons, but they forgot about the basic rules that all machines must follow. They were so proud of their advanced technology, Dae-sung added, that they didn't think about simple mechanical problems. They never expected someone to just walk in and adjust a few valves. The Meridian Supreme Technologist's voice came through one last time on their communicators. He sounded confused and angry. How did primitive humans defeat our perfect machine?" Jeho picked up his communicator. "Your machine wasn't perfect. Nothing is. You focused so much on advanced technology that you forgot the basics. Every machine needs maintenance. Every system can fail. Everything that's built can be taken apart." 3 hours later, Jeho and Dae-sung sat in their favorite pub near the military base. The TV showed pictures of the fallen world ender. News reporters from around the world were trying to understand how two Korean mechanics had defeated an alien war machine. To Jeho and Dae-sung, Dr. Hannah raised her glass. "The mechanics who saved Earth with a wrench." Everyone in the pub cheered. Colonel Lee had given them both medals, but Jeho thought the cold beer tasted better than any award. "You know what this means?" Dae-sung asked, looking at the TV. "The Meridians will think twice before attacking Earth again. They thought we were primitive because we still use simple tools and basic machines. But that's our strength, not our weakness," Jeho said. He put his grandfather's wrench on the table. The old tool had helped save the world. "We understand both the advanced and the basic. That makes us stronger than anyone who only relies on advanced technology." Dr. Hannah smiled. "The Meridians learned an important lesson today. Never underestimate a human with a wrench." Outside the pub's windows, the sun was setting over Busan. The world ender's huge shape cast a different kind of shadow now, not one of fear, but one of victory. It was a reminder that sometimes the biggest problems could be solved with the simplest tools, and that human ingenuity could overcome any challenge, no matter how advanced or alien it might seem.